Slow clap. Slow clap. Yeah, so in 2 years, you will have a ladder frame and you will also have a monocoque Thar.
I never thought we'd see a sub-4-meter Scorpio. The Scorpio has always been this big, burly, butch thing, but now they're shrinking it down. You know, honey, I've shrunk the Scorpio.
Yeah. And it looks damn cool, man.
It does.
It looks really cool. Welcome to the Evo India podcast, and in this week's episode, we are talking about the Mahindra Vision concepts that were unveiled at the Independence Day, what do you call it, Mahindra Festival?
It's like a party, come launch, come press conference.
Yeah, it's become a thing ever since the 2020 Thar was unveiled at the Independence Day, 15th of August 2020, and that not only did rocking business for Mahindra, but in terms of imagery, it really put Mahindra on the map. And then they followed it up next year with the XUV 700. Then in South Africa, we saw the Thar E. Then the Thar Rocks last year. And this year, we have 4 concepts. Not 1, not 2, but 4 concepts. And these are production ready. So these are not pie in the sky concepts and like a vision of what they might do in the future, but these are cars that are actually being tested as we speak, which are going to hit the roads in 2027. And it's not just for India, but for the global market. Mahindra wants to go global. They're already present in Australia, South Africa, South America, parts of the Middle East. But this is their big play to go global. Remember the fact that the Thar, even though there's a lot of demand in global markets, they can't sell the Thar because of all the IP around styling with Stellantis and those lawsuits, the threat of lawsuits. But now this will take the Thar global. So anyway, to talk about all of that, this is the Evo India podcast. I'm Sirish Chandran, editor at Evo India.
I'm Aatish Mishra, executive editor at Evo India.
And we're going to start first with the platform. So, Aatish, New.IQ or new_IQ. I'm not too sure, but New.IQ, that's what they're calling the platform. Take us through the main details.
So the New.IQ platform fundamentally is going to be a monocoque. You know, that was the big news. You've got a Thar looking car now on a monocoque platform. It's going to underpin cars from 4 meters to 4.3 meters. And it's going to be that exact same platform. It's not modular in the sense that they're going to be shifting the wheelbases, but it's the same wheelbase for smaller compact cars and 4.3 meter mid-size cars.
2665 mm. That's the wheelbase. That's the key figure. And you said 4 meters, but just to be very precise, it is 3999 millimeters. So slightly under 4 meters to qualify for that sub 4 meter excise duty brakes and obviously make it more affordable. So this platform is going to spawn a sub 4 meter, a compact SUV, and also a mid-size SUV, maybe a mid-premium SUV as well.
Correct. And to make you understand what segments that sits in, the sub 4 meter obviously is the Venue, Sonnet, Nexon segment, and the 4.3 is the Creta, Seltos, and everything else in that class, Kushaq, Taigun segment. So
even the next XUV 700, that obviously has to get an update and an upgrade. There is a facelift, I think, coming out this year, but it will need a significant change. And it makes no sense to carry on the current platform, right? So the 700 also, which is a mid-premium SUV with 3-row seating, that also will come on this platform. Right now, they've shown only 4, but obviously this will spawn a much bigger family.
Now, in terms of the technical specifications of this platform, I think it will be front-wheel drive. They explicitly said later on.
I asked R. Velusamy, who is the president of Mahindra Auto, who's also their engineering guru. And also, it's a great thing, right? An engineering guy is now in charge of the overall...
he's president.
In charge of the overall business. So he clarified that, yes, this is front-wheel drive, transverse engines. And also, it will have all-wheel drive capability.
Correct.
Now, that is interesting, okay? It could be a clutch-based all-wheel drive system. We've seen plenty of that. Even Mahindra has done it with the 500. It was that. But could it be an electrified e-axle at the rear?
It could be.
That could be something because Mahindra, they don't shy away from adopting advanced technologies. We'll talk about the suspension also in a bit. But for them, the best in the world is what they want to bring down. Also, reduce the cost, and make it adaptable to Indian conditions.
Yeah.
They did it with the Qualcomm, the advanced chipset. They first kicked it off with the 700, then they've got it in their BE and the XEV 9E. So it's there. The tech is there. So I don't think why it will not have advanced technologies
Correct.
over here.
And when you're saying it's front wheel drive, it's also going to be electrified. So there will be ICE engines with your transverse engine layout, but there will also be full BEVs based on this platform.
That's
there
right.
will be a motor on the front
Yeah.
axle and then possibly on the rear axle as well. You know,
Now, Velu is very forthcoming when you ask him questions, except when I asked him about hybrid, I didn't get what he was getting at. I couldn't get the hint. I don't know. I just couldn't get whether they are going to do it, they might do it, what or because he was very adamant about the fact that we will have full electric.
Yeah.
And why do we need hybrid? We don't need hybrid for meeting those fleet CO2 emissions. So whether it will have hybrid, I'm not sure because I couldn't read it. I couldn't read it from his body language or whatever. But I think they will have to have hybrid because that's where the market is moving towards.
Yeah.
They've also realized from the BE and the XEV experiment, it's not really an experiment, it's an ongoing project, but they've realized that people want something that looks futuristic, but with a combustion engine. Because right now, there are takers for electrics, but it's not what everybody expected when the project started working on electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's why this is what powertrain agnostic. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. It's
Fair enough.
powertrain agnostic. So petrol, diesel, electric,
Yeah.
and I think it will have hybrid. Hybrid also really helps in fuel efficiency. And if there's one thing that Mahindra doesn't do well, even though Velu insists that their power to efficiency ratio is the highest, and no doubt about it, all their engines are powerful. But if you've driven a petrol XUV 700, I don't think you've ever seen double-digit fuel efficiency figures.
Yeah.
So the hybrid will be important to get that fuel efficiency. And no matter what we say that India's moved away from the kitna deti hai age, people still want fuel efficiency.
Yeah.
And the hybrid is the solution to that. So I think they will have hybrid, but
they've
that's
not
my
hinted at
reading. They've
anything.
not hinted at
Yeah.
anything. So that's on the powertrain.
Yeah.
Front wheel drive, monocoque.
Yeah.
What else?
So they've got a 5-link suspension. And Velu made a big deal out of this in his presentation. He spoke about how internationally also there's no compact car with the 5-link suspension. Everything either has a torsion beam like we have in India,
Yep.
or it has 3-link, maybe 4-link at max. And he says the 5-link is what they've engineered into a compact car to give them complete control in terms of how to tune the chassis.
Yep.
And that's because they can control vertical movement, they can control lateral movement as well as forward and backward movement. So the axle can be tuned to the way that they want it
Basically,
to be tuned.
the rear wheels follow the exact path of the front wheels, and there's no. So lateral movement is the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's what they control using the control blade
Yes.
on the 5-link suspension. Another thing that he clarified when I spoke to him, in fact, there is a full interview with him on the channel. We'll put the link
Very
somewhere
interesting.
up there.
Yeah.
Very interesting. These launches, there are so many journalists, so many influencers. They have to talk so much. I think we sat down with him at, I think, around 2 o'clock. They had
Later.
finished, or
Much
maybe
later.
later, 3 o'clock. They had finished taking the wraps off everything by around 11. And since then, he was in front of the camera. And the first thing he said, can we sit down? But then he talks.
Yeah.
He really talks. So you should actually watch that interview. That's very interesting. So one thing that he clarified on the suspension is that obviously it'll be more cost effective to have a torsion beam for the compact SUV. But then they don't get cost efficiencies, if they do a separate rear suspension for the compact SUVs and a separate rear suspension for the 4.3 meter SUVs. And that's why the compact SUV gets all the benefits of a premium SUV at the compact SUV price point because they have scale.
Yeah.
So instead of making 10 compact SUVs, they're going to make maybe 30 of everything, of the full family.
And then share it across.
And then you share it across, which is brilliant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're bringing great technology, and it's not just the 5-link rear suspension. It's also those dampers.
Correct. Now, those dampers link to something else that he talked about. He talked about retaining Mahindra's DNA, which meant ground clearance and cabin.
I think that ground clearance was some 226 mm or something
Something
like that.
quite high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll have best-in-class ground clearance.
Yeah.
That's what he clarified.
So ground clearance and a lot of cabin space. And both of those things, what they will do is effectively raise the center of gravity. And that's where those dampers come in. And he said to be able to control the body, we needed to develop a specific damper which allows us to retain ride comfort while increasing body control. And that's what they've developed with their supplier. And they said, no, this doesn't exist today, but we need to make it. And apparently they've gone and made it. And he said that they've been driving it on the road and he's very impressed by it.
Yeah, there have been spy shots also. I've seen it on Instagram. And I don't know if it's the Thar, the Vision T concept, but there are spy shots on the internet. And also he said that these dampers are not like 5% or 10% better than the MTV CL dampers that they use right now. He said 5%, 10% is incremental. This is all new.
Yeah.
This is not incremental. So
and the improvement is massive is what he said.
Improvement is massive.
Yeah.
So this will be on the lines of the adaptive dampers that we see on the electric vehicles, but taken to the next level. And that's what I said when I meant that Mahindra aren't shy of putting like advanced tech on the cars. If you look back when the 700 came out, which premium or mid-size SUV had a 5-link rear suspension? Even today, which premium or mid-size SUV has a 5-link rear suspension?
Yeah.
None, apart from the Scorpio N. Right? So apart from the Mahindras, none have it. Even the Harrier EV is a 4-link rear suspension. It's not a 5. Mahindra did not have to go the whole 9 yards, but they did with the 700.
And now they're democratizing that into a sub 4 meter
into
car.
a sub 4 meter,
Which is insane.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
With the 700, we got the first Indian car that could crack a true top speed of 200 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
Even today, we don't have another.
Yeah.
Right? So the stuff that they've been putting on their cars, the engineering that is going into their cars is global.
100%.
It's not Indian. It's global. In fact, after this whole Mahindra Shingding, we then drove to Karjat and then came back to Pune. The roads were really, really bad. You know, Maharashtra road builders, slow clap. The roads are astonishingly bad. And that again brought us newfound respect for the 700. I remember at the launch telling Velu that the suspension, the noise damping, it feels little fragile. It needs to be a little better damped. Obviously, that has been sorted out in, say, the Thar Rocks and the Scorpio N. But the way that goes over bad roads is still so impressive. Yeah. And the way it can go down a wet expressway, give you confidence, give you stability. The steering is still a little too light, again, for my liking. Again, that's the feedback that I gave him. Now, Velu is somebody who likes light steering. Yeah. That's what I've realized after seeing all the products, talking to him so many times. He likes light steering. So I think that's a battle that I ain't going to win. But apart from that, everything else that we tell him, it all keeps manifesting itself in their future products. Everything, all the feedback goes into their future products. So anyway, we were talking about the platform. Anything else we need to...
Safety.
Weight also.
Weight is one thing.
So he spoke about weight being the enemy. And I asked him that why not rear wheel drive? And he clarified that anything above 1.6 and 1.7 tons, you need rear wheel drive to push it forward. And they want to have that energetic feel when you drive a Mahindra. But anything under 1.5 tons, you can do the same with front wheel drive. Now, we've seen it with tons of front wheel drive cars.
I'll take that with a pinch of salt. I feel like that comes more from the fact that they need to create a shared platform. If they were doing a rear wheel drive, then how do they engineer the engine and the transverse engine and all of that into it? Then it would have to be longitudinal. Then your length comes into the picture.
Of course, yep.
So I think this is more a compromise because they had to do front wheel drive. And like we look at something like a Mazda Miata, it's rear wheel drive. It's incredibly right. But rear wheel drive works even on light cars. So I'll take what he said there with a pinch of salt.
Also cost.
Cost 100%.
Yeah, doing rear wheel drive. But what I want to point out is that cars like the Golf, for instance, they're front wheel drive cars.
Correct.
The Renaults, they are front wheel drive cars and they handle really well. I'm not talking about the Renaults here, but I'm talking the Renaults in Europe, the French Renaults, they really handle well and front wheel drive. So they have a base to make a front-wheel drive car that is
100%.
fun to drive. We've seen it with the Kayak also.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's what he said, that you have to be under 1.5 tons. And that's why he also said that this platform will have the lightest weight to whatever ratio that they use. Volume to
Density
weight?
or volume.
Or power density to weight or some ratio. But that will have the lowest in this category.
I'm seeing if I have it in my notes. Lowest mass to volume ratio.
So lowest mass to volume ratio. So again, weight is the enemy, and they're cognizant of the fact. They're also cognizant of the fact about space. Now you were talking about space.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So he was actually laughing and saying how some of the CXOs at Mahindra are pretty tall, and Nal is pretty tall, and they need to be able to fit in the backseat comfortably. So he was talking about the hip to foot length, and that it should be 3 feet or so, and that has been a focus for them as well. So despite being compact, they should have rear seat space. They have flat floors. So in that sense, there should be fewer compromises in the backseat compared to what we're used to in the mid SUV or compact SUV segment.
And boot space. Now, the 3XO has come in for a fair bit of flack for not having a well-endowed boot. And he made it a point to point out that we will have best-in-class boot space also with this. So, you say anything about Mahindra, it pops up on a notice board over there, and the engineers do look into that. So better be careful what you criticize. It better be right.
Yes.
Because if it's not right, then you're going to get it from them. So
then safety.
Safety, yes.
Safety. He spoke about safety as well. Now, obviously, Mahindra has been focusing a lot on safety. They've got 5-star crash test ratings across a lot of their products now. And this will obviously better that. They're not going to go down from there, right?
And they're going for the global safety standards.
Yes.
So this platform has got a global ambition. It's not just Indian. So they're talking about Euro NCAP, global NCAP crash ratings, not Bharat NCAP, or not just Bharat NCAP, but 5-star in Euro NCAP and 5-star in global NCAP. So this will be very safe.
100%. Yeah, and I'm sure they'll bring in the ADAS technologies on top variants and this and that. And,
in fact, they showed us sketches of the interior, and it doesn't have that coast-to-coast screen. And Pratap Bose, he clearly pointed out that physical buttons are important.
Yes.
So you guys screaming about physical buttons, good on you. You should make your voice be heard, and your voice is being heard, because now we're going back to physical buttons.
Yeah. So vertical screens and physical buttons, at least if the sketches are correct.
No, but he specifically mentioned physical buttons.
Yeah.
I was hammering away on my phone making notes, and I heard physical buttons, and I was like, So that is also coming.
Cool.
Now, it's not edge to edge. It's right sized. I think this edge to edge is a bit too much. It's, you need to tone this thing down.
And again, cost, right?
And cost.
It'll bring costs back into
Correct.
check.
Yep. So, anything else on the platform?
No, I think then it's just some...
So let's jump into the vehicles themselves.
Yeah, so then I think what's important is that this platform can hold various top hats. And that's what the whole agenda of that day was, to show how this one NU.IQ platform can model out completely different cars without changing anything underneath. Wheelbase is the same. So it's not Kayak Kushak same platform where one has a shorter wheelbase. This is the same underpinnings with just a different top hat on top of it.
With very short overhangs.
Very short overhangs.
Which is great for design.
Yeah.
So let's start with the concepts themselves.
Yeah. So first one, I think the most exciting one is Vision T.
Okay. So Vision T obviously hints at the Thar of the future.
Yes. So when you look at the names of all of these platforms, Vision T, Vision S, Vision X, they all reference a current model in Mahindra's lineup, and then this is sort of an expansion of that range.
Yep. Okay, so Vision T, the Thar of the future. Yeah. Now, in terms of the styling, it clearly draws inspiration from the Thar E concept that was shown in South Africa, 3 years ago or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So it is an evolution of that design language that we saw there.
Yeah.
It now, I think after we've seen the Thar E, that sort of settled in our mind. Now we're kind of seeing this as an evolution of the Thar family. When we first saw the Thar E, that was a radical shift, and people would not have really placed it as a Thar. But with time and design sort of sits in your head, now it looks like a natural evolution of the Thar of the future.
Yeah.
And critically for Mahindra, it does not have those flat fenders which Stellantis and their lawyers would go at them if they launch this in Australia or South Africa. Critically also, and a lot of us would probably be a little wary of the fact is that this will be the first Thar that does not have a body on frame.
Yeah.
The first Thar that does not have rear wheel drive. The first Thar that does not have proper 4x4 with low ratio.
So they're basically softening things up.
Yes. And what I think, and Mahindra haven't said anything about this, but what I think is that as long as demand is there for the ladder frame, there is nothing stopping Mahindra engineers from not only continuing with the current Thar Rocks and the Thar 3-door. The Thar 3-door is due for an update, taking in all the goodies from the Thar Rocks. But they will evolve and engineer that platform to take into account requirements in terms of legislation, in terms of customer demand also.
No, 100%.
So
I think they'll exist side by side.
Yeah, so in 2 years, you will have a ladder frame Thar / Thar Rocks, and you will also have a monocoque Thar.
Yeah.
And you pick what you want.
Correct.
And this is basically attacking Creta from left and from right.
Yeah.
You know, you're giving people multiple options.
And with that superb styling, you know, that in your face, tall, upright, legacy SUV styling.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
There's, Mahindra designs, like for instance, the 3XO. It doesn't sit very well with me. The Thar Rocks has got those funny angles, especially like the C-pillar, that slope, what's going on over there. But here, I don't know, I couldn't point out anything. I couldn't rile up Pratap Bose and say, hey, what is this, man?
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And it's got 18-inch wheels, which is production ready.
Yeah.
Not some enormous 25-inch wheels, which will then be toned down. You'll have these big gaps in the wheel arches. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's got those square, boxy wheel arches.
It's very angular.
Which has that muscle,
Yeah.
such short overhangs, that vertical rear with the spare wheel hanging on the tailgate. I saw that there were top hinges also. So maybe the glass will be top hinged.
Maybe.
Like the Discovery 4.
Yeah.
The Discovery 4, the tailgate was side opening, but the glass, it opened on the top. So it's also there on the Thar Rocks. So that could be an element. It has those exposed bonnet latches.
Yeah.
Which references the Thar of the past. It has exposed door hinges, outside door hinges. They don't need to do that.
Yeah.
There is no cost saving in it. There is no real need
benefit,
for it.
Yeah.
It's pure design. So it's got these chunky door handles, which is a nice touch.
Yeah.
Overall, okay, they didn't let us open the styling buck. This must be a clay model also. So they didn't want to mess around with it. They also told us very categorically, do not stand on the turntables.
Not touch it.
Do not touch it.
Yeah,
but
fair
obviously,
enough.
nobody listens. So what to do? The 6-slot grill, that's still there. So again, that references the Thar of the past. But I think overall, the styling looks very cool.
No, phenomenal. Yeah.
There's no debate about that.
Yeah.
That will have all-wheel drive.
Yes.
Natively front-wheel drive, which is Thar like that. But again, you have the proper Thar side by side. So if you don't want this, you also have the other side. And then you have the SXT.
Yeah.
Now, this does not reference any current model. Maybe the Scorpio Getaway.
Maybe.
Basically, this is a white space.
Yeah.
You know, and Rajesh Jejurikar, he talked about white spaces. He talked about how the true blue SUV segment is growing and Mahindra is dominating it. But there is that larger segment which we spoke about, which is the monocoque SUVs, which are growing and which is what they want to attack. The SXT, I asked Velu that, are you going to do that? And he said that if we show this and if we don't make it, you will be disappointed, right? I said, yeah. So we won't disappoint you. So that's a clear yes, that is coming.
Yeah.
Now, what is that? That is basically this Vision T, the Thar of the future, but with the load bay exposed.
And the front was slightly different. It sort of teased the electric Thar's front.
Yes. So if you notice the grille, that is blanked out.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the electric Thar.
Yeah.
In terms of design, there'll be a few visual differentiators between the combustion and the electric. Not much. Obviously, you'll have those green number plates. So in India, you can't miss it for anything else. But otherwise, styling, I think, will remain the same. But this, the exposed load bay,
Yeah.
it looks very cool. It's not a pickup in the proper sense because it doesn't have this huge load bay sticking out at the back. But whatever load area that is there, that is exposed. So it'll kind of be like this lifestyle vehicle.
Yeah.
Can they do a convertible? Maybe not, because this is the monocoque. So for rigidity, which obviously aids into handling, safety and all that, I don't think they can do a monocoque. This will obviously have a panoramic sunroof and all that jazz.
But even how do you do a pickup on a monocoque? I'm not seeing it.
No, you might have like more engineering and more strengthening materials around the C pillar
Maybe.
to knock out. But in any case, see, the tailgate is not a structural element. It doesn't aid rigidity. So it's only your C pillar.
Correct.
It might have like a roll hoop to give it that strength. But I'm sure they've thought this through. Right? So this is coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that exposed load bay, and on this it had those like a Dakar race truck, those two spare wheels strapped on like that.
There was a direct reference to the Super Thar.
Yes, a direct reference to the Super Thar.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Super Thar? We'll have some images. If you're actually watching this on YouTube, we'll have some images of the Super Thar. That was with us for a year.
Yeah.
Osip, at that time, he took it all over the place. He drove it to Mana Pass and back. No air conditioning, no roll down windows, loud diesel engine, rock hard suspension. And those boys really drove it all over. It was a nuisance, but that thing was brilliant. And then after it finished with our long-term test, it went to somebody else and they drowned it, and that was the end of it. It was very sad
pity.
demise to a really interesting car. That actually won the Desert Storm one year. So that was the Thar that actually won the rally raid. It was the only Thar that won a rally raid in
the
India.
Thar, incidentally.
Yeah, in the Thar, yeah. So anyway, that references the Super Thar. So that's the Vision SXT.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to this. We expected, okay? We expected the Vision T to come, the Vision Thar. We knew this was coming. What we did not know was Mahindra intends to make a baby Defender.
Yeah.
That was a surprise, a proper surprise.
So that's the Vision S. And that's effectively expanding the Scorpio range. So if you look at it head on, you'll actually see the Scorpio elements in there. You know, in the grille, in the way the headlights are, from the rear, the vertically stacked tail lamps. It's pretty clear what they're getting at. Even the shoulder line and the window line, it's very clear that it's Scorpio. You know, so that effectively is a sub 4 meter Scorpio. I never thought we'd see a sub 4 meter Scorpio. The Scorpio has always been this big, burly, butch thing, but now they're shrinking it down. You know, honey, I've shrunk the Scorpio.
Yeah, and it looks damn cool, man.
It does.
It looks really cool. So Mahindra have tried to do like a shrunken down sub 4 meter of their butch vehicles, like the Bolero Neo is a classic example. But none of it's really worked. You know, the styling hasn't hit the spot, and it's not worked. Okay. But here, the styling, oh my God.
No, it looks very cool.
It really works. And Pratap said that we don't do concepts. We don't do concepts just to show you some random stuff. We do concepts which are going to come into production. So you can look at maybe 80 to 85% of everything that you see over here is going to get into production.
Yeah.
Maybe even 90%.
Maybe.
You know, and that's brilliant. It just looks so cool. Now, they haven't mentioned anything, okay? But this is pure conjecture. But the Scorpio has always been a 3-row vehicle, okay? And with Mahindra talking so much about packaging and space inside, what's stopping them from doing this as a 3-row?
Who knows? Maybe. But I doubt it, but maybe.
Maybe. Okay, that 3rd row will be only for kids and all of that.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Mercedes with the GLB, for instance. That is a 3-row,
Correct.
not an SUV, but like a 3-row van SUV kind of mix. There's nothing stopping them from doing a 3rd row.
I mean,
a 3rd row that you can take and throw out also.
The Triber.
The Triber, exactly.
The Triber has it. But then the Triber's proportions are very different from what this is.
Again, this is... see, the proportion, we know the inside proportion, right? In terms of footprint and everything is the same.
Correct.
You know, if you look at all these vision concepts, the overhangs are very small. The engine is pushed as far forward as possible to liberate space inside the cabin. They've talked about having best-in-class boot space, which means what? You can put a 3rd row there. Obviously, it won't have any boot. Now, if you have a 3rd row, it'll have no boot space. But I don't see why it should not have a third row. And then that will be a genuine extension of the Scorpio
Scorpio
family.
range, yeah.
Now, we asked Nal, who is the CEO of Mahindra Auto, about having multiple vehicles overlapping against each other. And he said, yes, it's a problem, but it's a happy problem to have because they have that problem right now. The Scorpio N and the Thar ROX, they're banging against each other.
The XUVs in the same space.
Yeah. So they already have it. And that doesn't seem to be slowing things down for them.
No.
The bottom line is growing, shareholder price value is going, all of that is great.
Yeah.
So here, the Scorpio with a 3-row seating, it could be the key differentiator in that category also.
Compared to something like a 3XO.
Yep.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong. Yeah, I could be talking out of my hat or ass or whatever. But
we're
why
speculating.
Not? Yeah,
we're speculating.
But why not? And maybe 2 years down the line, if it does have a third row, then we'll get back into the studio and say, hey, listen, I told you so. So that's the Scorpio, the Vision S.
Yeah.
There really is nothing more to add in terms of the suspension, in terms of the engines, because it's all
going to be the same.
Yeah. They will have different states of tune for sure.
Yeah.
You know, now they haven't even told us if these are going to be carryover engines from today or they will be a full new engine platform. It could be a full new engine platform. You know, who knows? Because it's 2 years later. So there will be stricter emission norms and everything also in the future. Hybrid. It could also be adapted for hybrid. So we don't know what engines, but everything that we see on the Thar, the next generation Thar, the Vision T, will also be there on this Vision S, including the 5-link rear suspension, the Da Vinci dampers. So that will be there.
Yeah. And I think it's a very cool... like you look at where the sub 4 meter segment is today, right? And this is something I spoke about a few months ago when the Sirish came out. Everything's the same. Everything is, sporty styling and you're trying to be SUV-ish without, but you've got crossover stances and everyone's got similar compromises and everyone's doing the same thing. Nobody's trying to do anything different. The Sirish did something different by stretching it in terms of space and packaging on the inside. And I feel like this baby Defender, the Vision S, is going to stretch it in another direction in terms of the design and the desirability of the sub 4 meter package. They're pushing the boundary in another direction.
And it just struck me, these conversations are actually very good for getting your brain juices flowing. There's nothing stopping Mahindra from doing a rear-wheel drive electric version. Now, look at what Mercedes has done with the CLA. Their combustion will be front-wheel drive.
Yeah.
But their electric is rear-wheel drive.
Maybe, but I don't think the platform pictures showed that.
Yeah, but there is actually not... Because see... Then you just now because it's independent.
He said that. He said why he can't do that.
Why?
He said because you need a longer rear overhang for that. In Velu's interview,
yes,
he said that putting the motors at the rear, you require slightly longer overhang, and we're working with such short overhangs that the efficiencies of it make sense to package it in the front. So they're not going to do rear wheel drive.
Because if you think about it, it's just the motor.
No, it is. But
it's a 5-link rear suspension. So
correct.
The torsion beam, you can't put a motor there.
But the motor has a lot of ancillaries around it, which will need to be packaged in there somewhere. And that's where the limitation is.
Okay. Anyway, 2 years later, let's see if the
I don't think we need
EVs come in rear-wheel drive. I don't know.
No, he said it in his interview, which he did with us. So I was watching that last night just as a refresher before this podcast, and he very clearly stated it there.
Okay, so I should keep my brain juices going normally. That was the Vision S.
Yeah.
Now the Vision X.
Yeah. So the Vision X, my reading of it is that this is going to be the 3XO replacement. So Velu did say that this is going to be sub 4 meter and they already have the 3XO there. I don't think it makes sense to have two such similar cars there. And if you look at the grille of this Vision X, it's very similar to the current 3XO. So I think this is going to be a 3XO replacement. What they're going to do is phase out this old SsangYong platform that they've been using for years now.
Yeah, how much longer can they use it? Right?
Exactly. And now they're going to get in this new NU.IQ platform with its shared efficiencies across so many cars and then package a completely new 3XO on top of it, and that's what it's going to be.
It looks very cool in terms of the design. Now, I'm not the right person to be talking about all this, but when you see the Thar with all these butch elements, you see the Vision S, the Scorpio with all these butch elements, then you see a conventionally styled car.
Yeah.
It looks nothing like the others. And that was kind of like the outlier.
It was the outlier. There weren't as many cameras pointed at it at the event. Like when I went in to shoot, I was like, oh, that car's empty. Let me go shoot that. Everything else had crowds around it. That was a little, not forgotten, but just ignored a little bit.
And that's because it is placed against all these others.
Yeah.
Maybe Mahindra should have done a separate event for the Vision X, because it kind of, the limelight did not really fall on that.
True.
But that is going to be important,
Yeah.
because the compact SUV segment also generates big volumes.
Yeah.
The 3XO now is selling well, and that is growing Mahindra's numbers.
It's doing so well now.
So this is an important segment to be in.
Yeah.
But
and coming back to what Nal said, is that there can be multiple products in each segment, and they won't step on each other's toes if they have different offerings in terms of desirability, in terms of design, in terms of what they offer, in terms of what a customer feels about themselves when they buy one. So the 3XO or this Vision X and the Vision S may sit in a similar price bracket, but they mean completely different things, right?
Yeah, and where I was coming from is that when you go to buy Mahindra, you would probably, and if you're going to buy a compact SUV Mahindra, you'd probably gravitate towards the Vision Scorpio, right?
Sure. But they're not going to leave a gaping hole in their their product line just because more people are going to buy the Vision S.
But just imagine, today, the 3XO is the most powerful in its segment, the nicest to drive. Very close with the Kayak, on par with the Kayak, but because the 3XO got slightly more power, it sort of nudges slightly ahead of the Kayak. Now, 2 years later, independent rear suspension,
that's
these
going to be a game
sophisticated
changer.
dampers, lower in terms of weight. The 3XO is no lightweight. It's probably the heaviest in the compact SUV segment. That will transform the whole driving dynamics in this segment. It'll transform our expectations. And that brings me to the final point on this podcast. And that's how Mahindra is raising industry standards.
100%. They've been doing it for so long. The XUV 700 set new benchmarks. The Thar rocks. They got 5-star crash test ratings.
For a body on frame.
For a body on frame. That's insane.
Yeah.
And now they're doing this.
They did it with the B. With the electrics, completely.
True.
We actually have a video out on the channel where I took it up our favorite driving road, and that thing, I was thinking on the way back that I haven't had so much fun in an Indian car since probably the Swift.
Wow. Okay.
It's just so nice to drive. You switch off that ESP, obviously it cuts in after you cross, I think, 50 or 60. But when you switch that off, you can adjust the attitude of the car on corner entry like a BMW. You can actually harness the rear wheel drive characteristics of the car. It is engaging, enthusiastic, and there is so much more that can be done on that platform. An all-wheel drive version can be done on that platform. You can have more power. You can have like a proper drift mode. And that's just the sheer engineering quality that's
100%.
going into their cars. And because of this, everybody else has to pull up their socks, which is great for you and me, because everybody else has to give advanced tech on their vehicles. And I don't just mean panoramic sunroof and edge-to-edge digital screens. I mean the proper engineering that goes into the car. I mean a proper suspension and chassis setup. I mean properly powerful engines. All of that, Mahindra is forcing the pace of development, forcing the pace of improvement of the overall industry.
Correct.
Like other manufacturers may be looking at this thing and saying, oh shoot, now we need to add this. And everybody who's working on Excel spreadsheets probably seeing the numbers going up and then fighting with accountants. But they have to do it.
Correct.
Otherwise, there is no reason to, not buy the Mahindras over something else. Mahindra obviously also has to improve their after-sales network. They have to improve their front end. That is a work in progress. I think Mahindra should be focusing a little bit more on that and also communicating that better, because you still get a lot of comments on our social handles about Mahindra service is not up there, and they aren't up there when you compare it with the Maruti. It's not there, even when you compare it with the Hyundai. So that side also needs to be cleaned up, but the product side, and of course, I really hope that with these new products, they don't do the same thing that, Apple CarPlay is not active yet and it's going to be active in 6 months and everything.
Just
I think
launch the ready product.
Just launch the ready product with everything on it. It's now these excuses don't fly. So have everything sorted. then don't bring, because they've been doing that with the electrics also. The vehicles were not 100% production ready.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, no, now we're going to address this, and in 3 months the cars are going to come and hit the market. And don't do that. Do fully finished, production ready vehicles.
Fully tested, fully validated, everything works.
And then there's not going to be any reason to find fault with this.
Yeah.
But honestly, hats off to what Mahindra are doing.
Yeah.
This surprisingly hasn't really taken the world by storm, unlike
very
last year,
surprised,
where the Thar Rocks really it went on fire.
The Thar Rocks is so niche.
Yeah.
This addresses the entire mass, the meat of the market, the two biggest segments in the market, and people haven't.
Yeah, and
it's not
it doesn't
exploded.
seem like everybody is really latched on to the significance of this.
Yeah.
But the significance is that in a few years, you will start seeing a whole load of Mahindras when you travel abroad. And that will all be spawned off this platform.
Yeah.
So maybe your next driving holiday through New Zealand would be in a Thar.
Why not?
Yeah. And you wouldn't want to drive something else because the Thar would be the nicest that you can get in that segment. And that is truly commendable. Anyway, that's all we have for this week's episode of the Evo India podcast on Mahindra's vision concepts. Do you have any thoughts? Do you think there are other white spaces that Mahindra needs to fill? And don't say sedan or hatchback because Mahindra aren't going to make that. They are focusing only on SUVs. And that's a strategy that has really worked for them. So if you have any thoughts, comments, opinions, drop it in the comments below. And we'll see you and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening and tuning in.